there were two things driving our decision to do programs around this anniversary. One is we're in the business of raising awareness, and any hook, anything that lends itself as a way to start talking about issues is great. But also I wanted to do this panel because we're so desperately in need of celebration. You know, either we are grieving or we are very, very angry. So just for 1 hour, I wanted us to remember the magic of women from all over the world getting together, the magic of going to China together, the magic of being part of something this big, and the legacy of that gathering with all its imperfections, with our inability to meet its promise. I wanted us to have one moment of just being happy about this. So welcome to the party. The Beijing Plus 25 party. I think it's hard to imagine that anyone here doesn't know people on the panel.
Yeah.
But having said that, where do I begin? Let me start with Bimla, who just came in. Bimla is the founder, director of Ekta in Madurai, and has been involved with the Beijing process, with SDGs, with CEDAW, part of the official and non-official processes, the go-to person when we want to find out what is going on in the rest of India on any of these issues. She's the one most likely to be in the loop and aware. And so she was the first person I asked because I knew she'd gone and I wanted to know who else had gone. So Bimla, welcome. Manohari, whom I have met a few times but never had the chance to hang out with because I didn't go to Beijing.
Yeah.
And so we didn't go roaming anywhere. But Manohari is a veteran trade union leader and feminist, and brings a great deal of experience to this panel. She's also she and Geeta went to Bangkok for one of the Asian Review conference earlier. That's one of the places we met her on the debrief. Geeta is almost a part of Prajna, which is always my first sentence when I introduce people. But she's also a senior consultant on gender and development issues. And there's, I think, virtually no area of political economy and development that you haven't worked on, from livelihoods to women farmers to recently, I think I met you at the disability program a little while ago. So these are really veteran activists from Tamil Nadu. And when Sheelu joins us, she will complete the group splendidly. I think for a long time, and I met her only a few years ago, for a long time, when I first came here and I would ask about feminist leaders and feminist groups in Tamil Nadu, Sheelu's name would keep coming up and I would get irritated because I never got to meet her, but I kept hearing Sheelu. And at that time, Women's Collective's website was not easy to access. So I said, who is this mystery person? Well, the mystery has now been solved. And she is famous not just because she does so much, but also because she is such a sweet person. So, which is also true of the other three. So this panel of sweet people makes a very sweet beginning to our celebration week. And so I have a short list of questions because we have such a short time and so many things to ask. They're only prompts. You don't have to answer them or talk about them. The first one, I actually just got a one-word description from you. What was it like? One word in Tamil or English or both? Should make two.
Politics.
Politics.
That is, in a way it was celebration. It was a celebration. It was politics also. Which made us run for something like 25 years. It was more like a beginning for me because, I had come in 90. So the preparatory process started in 93. I think others were a little senior to me. Manohari, Bimla ji, they were all seniors. Sheelu and all that. So politics and celebration.
What would you say?
Manohari?
Yeah.
ஒரு வார்த்தையில் சொல்லுங்கள் பெய்ஜிங்க.
அது ஒரு பெரிய கொண்டாட்டம், ரொம்ப மகிழ்ச்சி, நிறைய பேரை சந்திக்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு வாய்ப்புன்னு சொல்லலாம். பாலிடிக்ஸ் இருந்தாலும் கூட ஒரு வாய்ப்பு, உலக பெண்கள் அனைவரையும் சந்திக்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு வாய்ப்பு.
So celebration, opportunity,
happiness,
chance to meet other women, happiness.
Yeah.
Bibla?
It was exciting.
Exciting. Actually, one
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
What I
Starting from the travel, preparation, travel, and traveling in a large group like that, and singing songs inside the plane, and also getting off in Beijing and getting into that huge bus driven by women. So all these were exciting. Yeah.
Which actually is my next question. I want to hear about the process of deciding to go.
Process of deciding to go.
Because, I mean, Sadharnama, you know, we sit in our corner, we don't think, a world conference for women, anyone can go. How did you all decide? Yepti and the decision Panengo.
There was a preparatory.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a preparatory process. One thing, you know, I want to tell you here is that, see, now we are in a digital world. So meeting anyone is not exciting. Yesterday I had an international meeting. Day before yesterday I had a Asia Pacific meeting. Today I have at least a national level, you know, Sunita is there, somebody from Madurai is there. It's something like national kind of a meeting. So nothing is exciting. Those days, you know, that was not there. You won't believe, for women's groups correspondence, we used to cyclo-style the communication, put it in mail, hot copy, literally write something like, even now I have that, you know, copy of the addresses of women's organization, which ran up to 110 or 120 addresses. I used to literally sit in my office table and write preparatory process, what happened, and how are we going about. So for 120 people, we used to stick stamps and send the communication. That's how it was. IVID was there. IVID was taken as a nodal organization to do the preparatory process. And there was these two coordination units happened, you know, in Delhi, Sunita was there to coordinate the entire Beijing process. Later, there was something happened, you know, a South unit emerged. Sita was there and Cynthia was there. Delhi, Sunita was there. Madhu used to come for all these. Madhu Mera used to come for those meetings and all that. So, and another thing is that the sense, the we feeling was very strong. Before this new liberal economy, it's all, you know, like women from various organizations, but still we used to get together, you know, chat a lot. And we had our own, that fun space. So that network, we feeling, the affection, attachment was there. So when preparatory meeting happened, all of us jumped in. All of us jumped in. And, you know, the very first meeting happened in YWCA. I still remember Bimla coming in, talking about violence and feticide, infanticide from Madurai. That time it was, you know, Moringin in the Madurai. It was not Theni separate and all that. It was Madurai together. I still remember Manohari in a nice Anargali Salwar Kameez talking about Saurashtrian women and their weaving, the women labor issues. I still remember so distinctively. And Sheelu was on the verge of starting Women's Collective. I was working with an organization called MCCSS, which was working with urban poor, and I was with a unit which was working on violence against women, and I was struggling to form this short stay home. You know, idea of short stay home was so new in Tamil Nadu those days. We literally fought and we brought it that we need space for stranded women, that kind of a thing. So this is how it started, and we decided, see, at that age, we were all thinking about political correctness. Nowadays, it is more like you have a program, you have a report, you give the accounts, you give the report, then everything is over. Now then, no, we have to have a forum for preparatory process. We have to be politically correct. We have to come up with a political statement. We have to go to the state government with a statement. We have to get the acknowledgement from everybody to take it to Beijing. We formed a group called Women's Forum Against Violence on Women, under which we said violence includes the policy violence and developmental violence. So, that Women's Forum was formed, and we started doing preparatory process research in every sector, whether it is labor or infanticide or girl child or urban issues, abortion issues, SRHR. So all of us, we did developmental policies, everything. So the preparatory process brought all the joy. We used to get together, share the work and, documentation, research, rewriting, disseminating, all that, district by district. We found people. Hey, there is somebody who's working with Narikurva. There is somebody who's working with Dalits. Somebody who's working with the tribes. Find somebody. We expanded like that. It wasn't like this. It was like this. So, the very nature and culture was very different. It's more like whether we go to Beijing or not is different. This process is very important. Like, we cherish the process. Okay, others.
Yeah. I mean, to add on to what Geeta said, that time there was an environment, conducive environment also. There were women in the, donor agencies and UN agencies also who supported this whole process. And there was a coordination unit set up where Sunita and others, they were there. And so this preparation was much more, we say Beijing was not there, it is here. So all women's voice have to be carried to Beijing. That was the spirit. So in that sense, we all worked day and night, speaking to women, asking them to articulate their needs and their issues, struggles, all these things. So it was a euphoric moment. So we had this many conferences here in Madurai, in Chennai, in different parts. And as Geeta said, it was not in our mind whether we are going to Beijing or not. And through the, process of selection, in which IVID was very much involved, yeah, some of us got selected, but I was not supported by them. By then, I was a consultant to Womankind Worldwide, UK. So this thing was that if I am not able to raise money for 2 of my colleagues, I will not go. So with that, I kept myself away from this whole process of registering and getting yourself booked into the hotel till the last minute. But then Womankind came to us and said that we will support 3 people. So Shilu, myself and Vasanta, 3 of us were supported by Womankind, not through the national or regional process. So financially they supported us. So then only we knew that. By then also I had arranged some funding for Vanaja and Rohini, who was one of our board members. So a small grant we were able to manage, and both of them they got through, and then only I registered myself. So why I am narrating this? Then it was not so much of competition, it was collaboration. And that feeling of we, who is doing what, who is visible, who is not visible, that was not an issue. The issue was more important than the persons. So in that sense, we prepared ourselves and participated 100% in whatever possible ways we can. Going to Delhi for 3 days, traveling in a train, that didn't matter. Going by this ordinary buses, overnight journey, that also didn't matter, like that. So it was the spirit that kept us together.
I just wanted to add this, when coordination unit said that they can support so many people, I spoke to Christian Aid, which was supporting my project at that point of time, because the reason I gave was, if you support me, and this grant can go to somebody who's more deserving.
Yes.
That is the idea I gave, and Christian Aid said, just okay, you take. So, they supported my flight and all that. So those days, in 90s, how much salaries we were getting. So, it was very difficult for us to, go buy, to self-sponsor and go to China and all that. So, that's how it happened.
It could still be.
Yeah.
It could still be, yeah. And Sheelu has joined us. Sheelu, please turn on your video and mic. We're talking about the process of getting ready to travel. Manohari?
Yeah. 1993, it was started, the coordination committee. At the first meeting, it was held at Chennai in YWCA. At that time only, I could be able to meet all the members at the state level, and everyone, they have shared about their sector-wise issues, and specifically the women issues, how they are suffering. And the focus on tribal and Dalit women issues also focused there. And after that, a continuous coordination meeting was conducted at Chennai, and a regional meeting at Delhi and Bangalore also. The final meeting is, I think, at Bangalore. At that time only we decided, why don't we, why don't we, it is a very interesting conference, and it is a chance for us to meet everyone there and discuss something like that. So at that time only I decided to go there. At that time, one travel agent from American Express, she came there, and in ISI, it was ISI Bangalore, it was held. So at that time we all enrolled our name with her. After that only we mobilize our money to attend there, to meet out their travel like that. Myself, my family members and myself, I pledged my jewels, and I have mobilized some money, and I have gone to Beijing. And at that time, in return, Martha, now she is not with us, and so many of our friends, those who are all in the coordination committee, we have missed many of our friends. It is a very pathetic thing, and I am also very sad about that we could not meet in such an occasion. So, and there also I got some money from Martha also, and for my return from Delhi to Madurai. That everyone is helping each other, and to coordination, not in making our perspective strong, and helping everyone. For example, when we are going to this Delhi meeting, then we were dumped into a army campus. Then there is no toilet, no water, and no sleeping place. It was heavy rain, and it is drooping in the wall. So at that time it is no light also. So in the 3-bedded thing, we went another bed sheet, and everything's very dirty. And in that also we could be able to, at the national level, women leaders there, and it was decided to go and meet our Prime Minister. At that time, Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, and everyone, the few representatives, we went there. And there he told that, don't wash all the dirty clothes there. You should not reveal all the problems facing in India. Like that he told. So அவர் என்ன சொன்னாருன்னா, இங்க போய் அழுக்கு துணியெல்லாம் நீங்க அங்க துவைக்காதீங்க, நம்ம இங்க எல்லாம் ப்ரொடெக்டிவா நம்ம இருக்கிறோம், பெண்கள் எல்லாம் அப்படிங்க சொல்லும் போதுதான், இப்ப நம்ம the politicians also are not concerned about the issues of women அப்படிங்கிறது. அப்ப ஒரு மினிஸ்டர் ராஜராஜேஸ்வரின்னு ஒரு அம்மா, she was also invited to attend that Delhi final meeting. And one Madhava Rao Scindia, he is the youngest minister at that time. He also, when we were on our return back from China, he was no more. So he is so young. He also very supportive and everything. And when we went to China, at that time, in the flight, in the everything we have singing, and in the airport also, we are singing the Tamil songs, in the regional languages we were singing. And when we enroll our registration also, they took us in a bus. At that time, we are very surprisingly see all the women, they are drivers in the bus, and they are keeping big jug in by their side. It is in the plain tea is there. They are drinking and they are driving. So it is a very exciting thing. And the shopping also, when we are there is no computer at that time. So manually they are doing these beads, they are counting in the shops also. In the registration counter only, they are keeping the computer only. So at that time, China was not entered into a new economic policy and they export like that things. So it is a very astonishing things, because our India, we are trying to move forward and like that, but China, they are having their own autonomy like to, but now it is not like that. And we went to the Tiananmen Square and went to the Great Wall of China. There only we could able to meet all the Indian government representatives in the Great Wall of China sightseeing places only. They are not attending this official UN conference. So we are representing the NGO forum only. So we are having a different issues discussion held in a small tent. We could able to attend. At that time, I came to know the deep perspective again on reproductive rights of women. I could be able to gain the knowledge there, and how we can do the things and addressing the women issues collectively like that. I learned many things there. And the sightseeing, both myself and Geeta, we went in a bus. At that time, they have given us a free train bus to all the sightseeing. Only one day only we went there. At that time, when we were there, at that time, some days there are more rain also. For food, we are struggle a lot. On the first day we went, this noodle food is very good. Then Bimla, myself, Vasunda, and Geeta, we went to a hotel and we ordered chicken and everything, but we could not be able to eat because the taste is totally different. Here, the China noodle is famous. So in that thought only we went and come back. And and we have to put our ID card. Sometimes we forgot to get from our room, so we are not allowed to go inside. Sometimes these are the some thing. In one day when Silu, as a group, we went to a hotel. At that time, they, as Bimla said, there is no English speaking people. They have appointed one English interpreter. She has having this one thing, and in that she is the English interpreter. She also don't know about the English. Then the hotel, when we ordered for fish, they don't know. Then we are making draw a picture and show them, and by action also. Like that we are. And to the studio also, when we, like at that time, we are not having the digital camera and everything, so we could not be able to keep all the photographs there. And the inaugural day, it is a very pleasant thing. In the evening, it was held. At that time, Ruth Manorama, and we are all sitting in one place. We can say the Tamil-speaking people, we are sitting in one place, and we have seen that thing. At that time, the balloon, this portraying this China conference, this World Women Conference, it is a very great thing, and we have going round there, and it is a good experience for me. That much all I would like to share.
You don't need photographs. Your descriptions are so vivid. I felt like I was in the room, in that space with you. She was talking about preparing to leave, and my next question was actually something that Manohari began to answer, which is, what was it like to actually, what was the conference like? So you were in a different center from the official conference. Were there lots of Indians?
Yeah.
Tell us about the conference itself. Start off with Sheila and then.
We could be able to represent on behalf of NGO Forum, and parallelly there is the official UN conference as come. What we have discussed, and we have put some resolutions and our demands, we will give it to their representatives, those who are having the consultative status. So we make them to speak in that NGO forum, that UN forum. to highlight our issues like that. It is a good coordination between these official participants and also NGO forum representatives. So we can coordinate all the issues, what we have discussed, what is our expectation, like that we will write to them and make them to speak in the official conference. Like that we have done meaningfully, and we can utilize all the 10 days there in a meaningful way. That are
So were you in one big hall like a conference center? Is that how it was?
no, there are no.
Then?
They have
So tell
given
us.
one book, one timetable book they have printed. It was mentioned that in this issue will be discussed in the number, the 10th. Then we will, on reading all these things, we will go and attend according to our interest. We will go and attend the thing. If somebody, we will go as a group. Sometimes we will go in separately. Then we will come back and discuss about what we have learned on the day, like that we have shared among our.
So like a stadium with tents.
Yeah, stadiums and with some seats like that.
See, actually the NGO forum happened in a place called Hoira. Hoira is something like half an hour drive from Beijing. And you know, like what they have built all these housing board flats kind of a thing for the conference. After the conference, it was let out for people. So with that idea, they had built these structures. And there was a big global village tent, which was more like a reception, where you register yourself and you are given the schedule. And you know, like somebody like 50,000 people attended, Swarna, because after that, there was no international women's conference of that size. What happens at a regional level, whether it is Asia Pacific or West Asia or wherever, it's something like 200 organization representation. The huge one in the whole history we saw. I am very happy to say that I saw in my life something like that. 50,000 people walking in, women from various backgrounds with feminist identity, talking about issue, talking about politics of feminism, walking into the conference. That itself was a major event in our life. That's what I'm trying to say.
I can imagine.
50,000, you know. That நம்ம ஊர்ல சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல, திருவிழாக்கு கூட்டம் வந்ததுன்னா மழை பெய்ய ஆரம்பிச்சிரும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அதே மாதிரி 50,000 பேர் உள்ள போனா எப்படி மழை பெய்யும். அதுவும் Bimla must be having the inauguration recording with her, this video. That was one emotional moment. Now we know, like, of course we speak politics, we understand, we have aged, we know, we have become more practical, we are very level headed with what can happen, what cannot happen. Our understanding of politics has become very different. Emotionally also we are different. But at that age, you know, like it's all women band and all women scenario. And when it was, when the conference officially opened, literally, you know, like I was in tears. You won't believe, the gallery we sat, the Indian gallery, the next was Pakistan. We jumped over the gallery and hugged each other. So all those things happen.
Magical. So what would you say? I mean, how many people from Tamil Nadu, how many people from India? I mean, just a ballpark.
300, more than 300 people from India. 300. And Tamil Nadu, I think it was more than 100.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tamil Nadu was very well
Tamil speaking people more than 100.
Okay. Tamil speaking people.
And in Madurai, after
Shilu saying something.
After coming back, we had a felicitation. In American college, they had a felicitation.
Prior to the meeting.
Yeah. Tamil Nadu.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very faint.
Yeah.
Prior to the meeting, we had several meetings here. Prior to the conference.
I told all that.
Oh, you did all that. Actually, that was the first UN conference I had ever attended. First conference. So I didn't know the logistics and all those things. So I was totally new to the whole thing. But before that, we had a preparatory meeting in Philippines. So I was also sponsored for that. Let me tell you, I never had any idea of going to Beijing or going for any conference and all that. At that time, I was very, very fresh in Tamil Nadu because I was working in Bangalore. I was part of Oxfam team working in Bangalore. I completed my 4 years contract and I came to Tamil Nadu. That was just before I started Women's Collective. So I was in this, I was doing some consultancy with the Christian Aid. I was a Christian Aid accompanier at that time, actually, accompanying Christian Aid projects. So everything was new for me, actually, you know, getting together and all that. IVID was there in Chennai, which actually played the pivotal role, getting all of us together in Chennai and all that. So IVID actually, Martha at that time has contributed a lot for our getting together. I think Geeta would also support me.
I shared.
That is how, I met Geeta earlier also. As Christian Aid partner, I have visited their organization. So I know her. So that coming together helped me a lot, you know, coming together with other NGO workers and all that. And then I think it is IVID which recommended me. So I went to Philippines and then I also went to Beijing. So anyway, I was really lucky to go to Beijing. That's what I would say. That was the first UN conference. So I came to know about that. As Geeta was telling, see how the people negotiated, no? How it is for single words in that document, for single line in the document, hours of discussion, how people were going around and trying to influence the representatives from other countries. Because as Manohari has said, Narasimha Rao didn't want to clean our dirty linen there. So we had to really get the help of the other political representatives from other countries to support our views. I went for one such discussion in the night. It was about how the Vatican was opposing to abortion.
Yeah.
And went for hours together in night. It was really, I got so angry. I remember I got so angry. Why should they, you know, block the entire thing? Because there's so much of problem and all that. When I came back, I was actually practically fighting with my mother because she's a practicing Catholic. So I was fighting with my mother as she's representing Vatican. So I was, you know, taking that so seriously. It was really an experience, and that experience also helped me to help a lot to build a women's collective. So 94 initially, June initially we started. The building of Beijing process, women's collective also was a part of it. And then coming back from Beijing, it helped a lot to actually facilitate women's collective. I was a facilitator at that time. Later, after 6 or 7 years only, I contested the election and became the president. So that was actually a change in my own life. We also launched the Women in Black in Chennai.
Yes.
March 8, 1990.
There was a Women in Black in Chennai. I didn't even know.
Yes, for years together we did.
In 1995 March.
Still they are
Hidden
wearing
histories.
black.
Still today, if you see women's collective members, they'll be wearing
Yeah, all there, black saree. Black.
even yesterday. If we do not,
That's it.
everybody were wearing black and protesting. If you just watch the Facebook, because it was
Yeah.
I will now look at the colors in the photos.
It was actually the Vimochana meeting in Bangalore, which motivated all of us to get into that Women in Black movement. And we came and launched in Madurai and in Chennai, everywhere. Madurai, it was in front of the railway station, and it continued for 9 years, and it became a symbol there. But because they were renovating the railway station, we could not continue there. But then the police, everybody asked, why are you not standing now in black? Okay, so like that, it was a memory for many of them. And many senior women, they hold it very dear to them. And from there, they took it to Uslampadi and in many other places, tried to replicate Women in Black. Continued for some time, then for some reason it got discontinued. But it is part of this whole history of
After the color.
Yeah.
Actually, Swarna, it's not the conference that happened in 95. around conference, how Sheelu was explaining about the, organically it became Women's Collective and all that, how it contributed, and the Black Thursday protest and all that. There's one more thing I want to mention is that the discussion on sexual and reproductive health rights led to the target-free approach of public health. Before that, if you remember, people used to, catch women, like if you don't go through sterilization, your ration card will be confiscated, and surgeries used to happen in schools, all those, the target was lifted. Even now, but I feel there is a definite feminist politics in family planning policy of India. But the target was lifted in Tamil Nadu. We were, in a way, we were a role model to other states. It all happened around the pre-post processes. That is one thing. Black Thursday happened. And
we also had a forum, Women Against Violence Forum. And
Women's Forum Against Violence on Women.
Yeah,
which
and then
organically.
Public hearing.
Level, when they started National Alliance of Women, we were opposed to it. We said why we should have started National Alliance.
Public hearing on violence against women.
So we were very initially we were against it. Yeah, we also had a public hearing. Yeah, I remember.
Public
that
hearing
was in Chennai or in Madurai?
Chennai.
Gurukul we had.
The range of issues you should have seen, Swarna, from access to the sea and seashore. Now, what we are talking about, coastal issue, and what is Coastal Action Network was talking. We spoke in that public hearing. We spoke about state violence. We spoke about women farmers issue. We got people who were affected by special task force in the name of Veerappan search. What happened to Adivasi women, indigenous women? We got those women, and Krishna Iyer was the chairing the session of public hearing.
Yeah.
He spoke so vehemently on all these issues, how violence should not be limited to physical abuse only. It is policy violence, it is, perspective violence, state violence, police violence, health-related issues, all that should come under violence. And that charter was known as Madras Declaration of Women's Rights. And almost in most of the papers that came out in the first page. I still remember, in many of the both English.
You have a copy of this. Let's recycle and put it all out again.
I think
in Chennai people they are having.
have a copy of it.
Which one?
I would have a copy of it.
I would have a copy.
Yeah. Because I don't know, we must search for it. At that time we were not very we have not taken many photographs.
Yes, you went to the Great Wall of China and nobody has a photograph for me.
Yeah.
I
have some photo, but didn't have the time to pull it out. I have the video. I have the video of the inaugural session, which is a very long video.
Which was screened at that meeting. But I'm more interested in all of you, in seeing you in Beijing and you at the venue, you at the Great Wall.
Yeah. And it is so coincidental that you are mentioning about Krishna Iyer. And this morning I was looking into my documentation and was reading one of his messages, which he had written for the domestic violence and law. So that really I enjoyed letter by letter. And I asked one of my office person to type it out because it is not in the system. The title is an apology for Gyno-Ecocratic Offensive. Gyno-Ecocratic Offensive. An apology. So this is what I was reading in the morning and I am listening to in the now. So in that sense, it was very intensive a process, although we all had fun. But again, we were part of very many intensive processes. And after coming, and Beijing also becomes a milestone because unlike others, I was keeping track of from the first women's conference, 75, Mexico, and then mid-decade, and
Copenhagen.
Nairobi.
Nairobi.
Nairobi, actually, Rita Ma went,
Ah, yes.
and after she came back, I made her to make a presentation to the slum women I was working with. So in that sense, I had some familiarity with the process of this UN conference. And my attraction came, the Mexico, it was attended by 3,000 women. And when the number jumped to what Geeta was talking about, official estimates say some 36 or 38,000 people, but there were people coming as day attendees, coming and going. So altogether it must have been more than 50,000. So where is 3,000 and where is 50,000? So we had the capacity to mobilize that women's concern, and now this is being dissipated. That is a frustration, but we were all excited about that. And secondly, I was talking about the environment. Yeah, UN conferences happen and also it closes. But this was a conference because of this well-prepared preparedness from all sectors. It was called Action for Equality, Development and Peace. Then, till then, all the women's issues were always seen in a very, very narrow perspective of violence against women. But this is the title itself, Equality, Development and Peace. And the UN Secretary General was not able to come because he was ill then, Boutros Ghali. So he sent a special emissary for this. So people were serious. And to me, this Beijing Platform for Action, it has set the agenda for women's empowerment, which is still today, it is unfulfilled and it is in the process. You may have SDG, you may have MDG, whatever you add on, but this remains the crux of the issue, that it is an agenda, unfulfilled agenda, which has to be attended by all the governments. And again, the final document, it was called it was called a Conference of Commitment. The Fourth World Conference, also in another way in their official document, it is being mentioned as a FWCW, Fourth Conference of Women, that is called a Conference of Commitment, in which you see each government is giving a commitment. And it is written down, the Indian government had said 6% of the GDP for education, okay, which is still unfulfilled. So therefore, there is a lot to, rely on this document and still work on it, rather than jumping into this thing. Yes, we have to keep track of what is happening in SDG and other things, but our core agenda is set by the Beijing Platform for Action, in my understanding, and which also has a very, very close connection to CEDAW and the CSW process from the beginning. All these are correlated, and therefore, to me, this is a very, very dear document.
So if
and also it also brought out the issue of girl child. Till then, girl child was never a separate thematic area of focus. But the 12th critical area of concern was girl child. So thereafter, our policies, programs have changed. So we need to really feel proud that we all were part of that, and we have contributed to that in some way or other. Another thing I just wanted to say, now we see a widening gap between the top leaders and people. But those days, I think we had Ella Ben and this Hillary Clinton. These people, we were very easily able to approach them. I remember I knew 11 in a training program. I have visited Seva, but there was a meeting. I mean, we were trying to stay there because it was raining heavily. It was a well protected building. And she saw me from the dais and said, stay there. So we were not able to move out of that place because she has asked me to stay. So in a big gathering like that, she was able to locate.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing is that you spoke about the participants from Tamil Nadu. We had a wide range of participants. We had, I mean, people like us, activists, and also we had very, very grassroots level workers. Karpai.
நீ 4:30 மணிக்கு வர்றேன்னு
she was அங்கே பெய்ஜிங்ல போய் இறங்கி பார்க்கும்போது செருப்பு இல்லாம நடக்குது. என்னம்மா ஆச்சு? செருப்பு பிஞ்சு போச்சு சொல்லுச்சு. நான் சொன்னேன், no, you cannot go like this. I don't remember whether it was Geeta or Martha with me. So we took her to a shop there. We didn't know the language, we didn't know the place. But I said, no, you cannot work like this. And she was much more helpful to all of us. We will not be able to go and collect reference materials. She will run somehow and go and get 5-6 copies of it and give it to us. So, I mean, she didn't know the language at all, but she participated fully, actively in all these sessions. And the third thing I wanted to say, that there was space, because we thought that it is our space. So even if there was no space in the main seminar or whatever was happening, we used to pull chairs outside and make a separate meeting of our own.
Yes.
That was most interesting. You can.
We had a meeting called Working with Differences.
Yes, yes.
We organized our own session there.
Yeah.
Because you know what happened was that the dilemma of feminism, which is more obvious now, those days it was manageable. You were able to iron it out, you know, like whereas there was somebody who was talking about Islamic feminism, somebody who had a Marxist-Leninist background, somebody who can't stand NGOs, somebody who's in between, and all that, all those people, you know, who could really get together and talk to each other, and you know, that's how it is. That's how it was. That another thing is the very nature of civil society was very different then. You understand what I'm saying? The nature of civil society was very different. That, you know, like, see, at one end, if you look at me or Sheelu or anybody here, Manogari or Bimla ji, we were into research, we were into training, we had a counseling center, we ran a short stay home, we had larger community projects, we had health projects, all that was happening. But, you know, you know, like we never said that this is not the project, this is not the outcome, this is not the expected output. No, we were getting engaged. In Tirukovilar, if there was an, you know, rape and murder, I would have gone. Some Sheelu was not there, women's collective members would have gone, Gandhimati would have gone, then some Jain Shantakumari would have come. So the continuation of this forum was there. And apparently 90s saw the growth of Dalit politics in Tamil Nadu. So as a group, we were responding to the Dalit politics, Dalit movement, Dalit issues, all that, you know, the Kodiyangulam issue happened, Manjole shooting happened, Dalit consolidation happens, that has its impact on civil society space. It questions a lot of people within the feminist movement. So we were contributing to that. That itself, I can write a separate chapter. Ask Sheelu, she will tell more. Because she had to take a lot in the entire process.
Yeah, it also helped me personally to look into the whole issue of sexuality, or the sexual and reproductive health rights and sexuality. I mean, to be very frank, I didn't have much deeper understanding about those issues. So it was very surprising to me when there were so much of discussion, because I went to the NGO forum and also I had registered and I went to the official this meeting. You can be an observer there. So sexual orientation, That was a much debated topic. Again, they reconciled within bracket that it has to be in accordance with religious and cultural practices. So the politics, what Gita started saying, I mean, was really widening out my vision about this whole issue of sexuality. The second thing also, there was a lot of discussion on family and families. So, I mean, initially I thought, what is this? Why are they fighting over this? What is this family? What is this families? You put IES, it becomes families. Why are they fighting over this? So there are different types of families which needs recognition, and you have to go beyond the stigmatized way of looking at family. That was also very interesting for me, sitting in some of those sessions. So, yeah.
Also, the lesbian women, we could be able to meet them there. This lesbian women, in one of the tent discussion, they had the discussion. At that time, we are very much wondered and how they are behaving like that. We could be able to see them, and also it is a feeling for us to accept them as our sisters like that. Previously, it is a great perspective we got there. Though as a woman, though they are the lesbian relation or like that, it is a good opportunity for me to go around that discussion and learn a lot. What is their behavior and what is their attitude? What is their expectation, whether the society and the government and the country, they have to recognize them like that. In that I learned that. And for these children, the various, both pre-paging and post-paging also, we could, pre-paging also we prepared well. With so many coordination committee, and the final one is that public hearing. We would be able to listen to various forms of violence. I also took one teacher was rape and murder. I took the case, and the brother of that teacher, he explained about that. At that time, Jayalalitha was our chief minister. At that time, she passed a report that the women are not good, so we cannot do anything. So it is he is having the responsible position, but she is not ready to interrogate that issue. Like that, we came to know so many, like the Veerappan issue. Many women, they were raped and they were ill-treated by the police and peacekeeping forces like that. And those who are helping Veerappan also, that women also targeted by the police. They also came and openly, that is the first time I learned that the women are coming out with their sexual thing and sharing openly about this, their what are the harassment sexually they are facing like that. They in their verbally they have addressed. It is a great experience for me. So post PGing, and also we are facilitated, we are honored by some of the groups in Madurai, especially this American college. They have invited us and asked us to share what are your experience by attending this PGing conference like that, both myself and Bimla. At that time, I shared about the environment protection. At that time only the new economic policy is very much.
Sheelu, I'm going to ask you to say something and then open it up for questions. It's a small group, so shall we just have people turning on their mics and videos and speaking?
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to say is from 1991 to 95, Jayalalitha was the chief minister. So increasingly, there was such an opposition growing against her. And this group, the group which have come together, Women Against Violence Against Women, took up this illicit liquor and every other were on the road. So that actually brought the opposition for Jayalalitha, and we were singing songs and slogans and all that. One of the reasons why Jayalalitha lost in 1996 is, I think, it's because of the women's vote.
Women.
And I think
that is also fallout of Beijing.
That Beijing conference had contributed.
that.
So
you won't believe, Swarna, every week, every second day we were on a struggle on the road. Can you believe?
Wrote in
Dharna,
Beijing or
Morcha.
wrote here?
Here.
Morcha, yeah.
So, you know, civil society.
We didn't have so much of restriction. We were in front of different building because only after Stalin became mayor, they stopped that. Before that, we were in different building. We were
Yeah, you know, like every second day, yeah, we were doing a demonstration. So a civil society was seen as a political identity in 90s. Now it is so different. You know, you're not respected as a civil society space. You have to stick to your objective. You're monitored. You're insulted. All those things are happening now. But 90s, you were a political self. Imagine as part of Beijing process. You know, on behalf of the forum, I filed a public interest litigation against Doordarshan. That's part of the Beijing process. You know why? Because they were showing a serial in which a girl gets molested and she marries the perpetrator. We questioned that. We filed a public interest litigation. Doordarshan apologized and changed the script that the victim, the survivor is not marrying the perpetrator.
No, Geeta, the director asked us to come for negotiation. We went there, we discussed that, and they asked us what type of script you want to tell us. How do you want us to take the story? Then we told them. So change the script accordingly, and it was changed. That was possible because there only Doordarshan was there. Now there is a number of this TVs, and they are showing all rubbish. No concern.
Yeah. There's been a palpable shrinking of any kind of space for engagement and dialogue and protest, literally. Yeah. So
that fearlessness was there in 90s for civil society groups. Come what may. Ask me and Sheelu how many FIRs and how many times we'll be getting arrested. Now it is not possible. If you get arrested, your license is
when you are arrested and when you are taken to a police station, we'll be looking around for fault against the policeman. The child is there working, we'll take photographs and threaten them. All sorts of things we have done.
And imagine we were giving our surnames as them. Once me and Sheelu, we were arrested, we were retained in Egmore and then Veperi police station, I think, Egmore police station. We gave our father's name as surname. The police officers got so angry. I said, we are fighting for it. And then we said, even in ration cards, we are asking for Kudumba Talaivar, head of the family, to be a woman. That is part of the Beijing process, which happened in Jayalalitha government. We asked for it.
But here in Madurai, they don't take us to the police station because we are large in number. They took us to the Kalyan Mandapam, and on reaching, the women started shouting, saying that we are hungry, we want food. So then finally they came and said that we don't have the means to feed 500, 600 women. Please disperse. I said, no way. From wherever you have taken us, leave us there. So to that extent, we had the space to negotiate and assert our rights.
Space.
Now there is no space.
No space.
That is what is the difference.
That's totally different.
there are others here, Sunita, Amu, Sudha, Nandini, and someone whose name I don't know. Would you like to say something? Do you have memories you'd like to share?
Hi, Sunita.
Hi.
I wasn't prepared to come and say anything. I wanted to listen to everybody. Yeah.
You have photos of the Great Wall, is what I want to know. Now I'm obsessed with the Great Wall photo.
I have.
I was too overwhelmed to work. I don't think I have any of those possessions of photographs. But I think number of women's groups. In fact, I was hoping to crowdsource photographs from Beijing. And there will be some photographs with the Navu team's materials. All the materials are with the Navu team. So somebody will have to mind and sort them. But many people, I think Nanditas and all had good cameras and, people. We didn't, I think we learned later that we didn't have a photographer with us. Nowadays, there's one participant and 5 photographers. We were 400 participants, but we didn't have any photographer. we had academic friends, we had journalist friends, so things were written about, people wrote, all of that. We even performed there, right? You remember there was an All India team that was put together of cultural expressions, and
Yes, yes.
Murari Sharma led that. Women from the Myra Paibi communities in Manipur, to women from the south, and they put up a program. So there was a lot that was happening, and I have this very, very vivid memory that when we saw delegations walking by, I think I don't know at which point we were all walking in our either regional groupings or country come regional groupings. And so I think the women from Japan all had the same kind of clothes and a yellow flag or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And suddenly we saw this homogenization stuff, and we thought, thank God we are so diverse. And there's so much diversity reflected in the way we dressed, in the way we were occupying the public space, in the way we were speaking. And one loved that, the depth of democratization that was there in the process. Hard that it was not easy.
Yeah.
We were all very young women, remember that. It was my first conference. I may be coordinating it. It was my first UN conference. I had never been to a UN conference.
One of my questions for all of you, from my experience, it's usually when you go out like this that you meet people from India. India itself is such a large country, and we actually don't have the money to just travel to each other's work sites and hang out. So you actually sometimes have to go to Beijing to meet someone from Imphal. And that is also a revelation. And sometimes I have found I have more in common with people from other countries than I do with people from another part of my country, because the scale of India and the scale of our diversity. Did you have that experience as well?
Yeah.
Were there connections you made with other Indians for the first time in Beijing?
Not only, even in the preparatory process, one thing I want to tell about Ajitha of Kerala. Okay, I had seen this film Panchagini much before I met Ajitha. I saw the film when I was in college. I was like the young student protest woman kind of a person. So, I was part of students' movement, and I was looking, I looked at the film, imagine a woman who has gone to the extent of killing another person, So, like I was always thinking about, I should meet this Ajitha. In the Beijing process, I met Ajitha, and me and Ajitha went together to the Great Wall of China. Okay. I will send you the photograph. And I didn't know, then I was asking Ajitha, what do you do in Kerala, this, that, everything. And later I realized, this is that Ajitha on whom the film was made, and it won the national award, which impressed so many other young women of 80s in student movement. Oh, this is that Ajitha. And of course, Ajitha's life changed a lot. I'm telling you, from Beijing to the Beijing plus 25, all of us have changed. Our positions, political positions, feminist positions, relationships, priorities, all that have changed. How we look at feminism, how we look at equity issues, how we look at policies, all that has changed. And the Ajitha I knew from the film looked very different. So, this is what you're saying, right? So, that also, that's it.
So let me ask you about that, Geeta. 25 years, obviously, we've all changed physically. Let's leave that out. But our personal lives would have changed. But what has changed? You talked about our attitudes towards issues. Can you give me an example of something that has shifted in 25 years? What you thought in Beijing and what you think now?
The way we looked at feminism, see, we were the first generation, 80s, 90s, who spoke so vehemently about feminism, but there was so much of backlash at personal level and professional level. Within our organizations, we fought like anything to be heard. Within the so-called civil society space, within the movements, we fought like anything. So, but now when I look back, I feel, you know, like I'm more level-headed. Now I'm more looking into equity issues, Marxian feminism as, you know, as a better positioning and all that. The way I looked at Dalit politics in 90s is very different. The way I look at Dalit politics, Dalit consolidation, what Dalit parties have done now is very different. I'm not saying this bad or good, but over a period, 3 decades, my position has changed. And, you know, like, I feel now, you know, like, those days we were talking about exclusive women's spaces and all that. I feel that is very artificial now. You know, exclusive women's spaces for, you know, many things. Now I feel that's very artificial because nothing like that exists. So sometimes you need for your sharing or for a therapy group or whatever. And, you know, now I'm looking at equity issues. And another thing is that the way we look at, you know, our own communities, women farmers issues, new liberal economy, climate emergency, all these, the land, the resources, safeguarding the resources, all that, weren't there in Beijing, like how it exists now. So,
what would you add?
Yes. I think in my case, I mean, I was a rebel from my childhood. So I was much more a reactionary. So I have become much more proactive now. I think that has my experience, age, everything also contributes to that. But with all those exposure and analysis, it has what Geeta was saying, that you see the issues in a very, very different perspective. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier also, I had very little understanding about the sexual and reproductive health rights and also sexuality per se. When you are talking about this LGBTQAI, that I mean, I was wondering, what is this? So like that, but now today I am in a much more understanding position. So those two takeaways, I think I have taken away from that Beijing exposure and I mean the experience I had. And you tend to see, I mean, the feminist struggle. Those days, although we were talking about feminism and we assert ourselves as feminists, but in many public places, I don't know about you all, you are not in a position to say that you are a feminist. But today I am. So I have that confidence to say that I am a feminist. So those days, no. I think these are the issues.
Manuvri, Sheelu?
Yeah. As I told you earlier, my experience in Beijing, and also before that, the autonomous women's movement, the continuous meeting of autonomous women's movement has contributed a lot in my whole life, because you know my life is women's collective. That's how I connect. So whatever I learn from outside, I make it a point to translate that to my group. So I also see the growth of women's collective in that way. See, as Geeta was mentioning, the Beijing confident that we became part of a Dalit group, emerging Dalit group in Tamil Nadu. Women's Collective was the only women's group which stood with that, and we went for public hearing, we went for fact finding, we did so many things. We really got into trouble also. We were with the group as long as we were with the group for about, I think, nearly 6 years, till the time the group turned itself to a political party. Then we withdrew our support. Then we came out. So, but that experience actually, not only for me, for the entire women's collective team, it was really it was a lifetime experience. So our based on that experience, we have worked out our strategy and things like that. So it was very useful in that way. Where people are talking about LGBT, because as Oxfam person, I have I was working with the lesbian group in Philippines. So they were all they had come to Beijing. When I went to Philippines, also I met them. They had come to Beijing. And after that, in the autonomous group, we had a discussion. We had a session. So I could ask my women's group members to go and attend that, so that they get exposure. You know, but today the entire group's vision of that is totally different. Earlier, you know, it was a taboo. Over the years, you know, even in our own group we have a lesbian, so you know, it is like that. So yeah, it's really a lot of exposure and lot of learning, and that learning was translated into strategy in the group. That's what I would say. And lot of contacts.
Manukari?
The one thing you were talking about, the diversity in India, no? The one thing which worried me then and which worries me now is the problem of language. You know, it's the moment,
As
moment
activist.
national happens, people start talking in Hindi, which is something I not there even now. I'm really you know, something which really works on me. After this, I was in the process of World Social Forum. So I was in the organizing committee, I was in the financial committee and all that. Almost every meeting I fight. Language fight is always there. So people say because you're from Tamil Nadu, you're doing it. I'm not from Tamil Nadu, I'm from Kerala. I have studied Hindi, but still I feel people cannot, you know, impose something. There has to be a common language, or there has to be facilities for everybody to understand what everybody is talking. That you know, that is not happening in any of the meetings. Even in women's group meeting, it is not happening.
In such meetings, I get up and start speaking in Tamil.
Yeah, I also do that.
I've done that many times. If you can't respect my presence and speak in Hindi, then this is what I do.
That's a sign of protest. But I think we have to really find a means of coming out. Recently, I attended a Zoom meeting. It is this People's Parliament. Yeah, in People's Parliament, they had a simultaneous interpretation of Tamil. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Whoever arranged it, was really possible for everybody to participate. Even people from a small village in Tamil Nadu could understand what is happening in the rest of the world, in the rest of the states. They were able to, you know, identify themselves. See, COVID has affected everyone in the same way, you know, something like that. That comes only when there is a, you know, link in the language. Otherwise, you know, you talk in Hindi and you disappear. We come there and talk in Tamil and we disappear. That unity doesn't come. That is something I think even women's group is lacking. That's my feeling. After all
Sri Lanka actually does this very well, having simultaneous translation all the time. But I wonder about the costs and the scale of doing it in India. But yes, we must. Otherwise it's not a dialogue. No,
on Zoom you can get it done. You can even translate for the disability groups, etc. They have these channels, it seems, and you can just take those channels and do simultaneous translations. So it is happening, like she said, the People's Parliament, which I also, you know, heard for the week, I thought was brilliantly done. And in any case, people were told not to speak for more than 3 to 5 minutes, largely, except if you were a keynote speaker. And I think it does help, and that brings me back to the point of Beijing, that many of the women who presented their issues on behalf of their collectives or whatever, we had translators for every one of them. And we made the effort. I mean, I know that all of us were also challenged by a lot of resources, and also that navigation in navigating everything in China was not easy, huh? We were all under observation, we know that. So, and there were different kinds of people. Even the registration process took us something like 6 hours, I remember, and everybody was so upset. And we were like struggling because we were not in charge, but we were trying to, you know, persuade the process. So, you know, we were large in numbers. There were so many things to happen. So I think we have to understand that administratively, there's a lot of work that goes. I have this very clear memory that when whoever had to apply, whoever was selected, there was a separate selection committee. The coordination unit did not really. Everyone had to apply, so collectives applied on behalf of the women, and then there was a committee that had a very transparent criteria, so that they would select across disciplines, across constituencies. They also did some kind of a mapping. You know, Karuna played a very important role along with the other donors in the interfacilitating committee on Beijing. And they mapped and they saw, so every state was included, as many districts as they could, languages, diversity, education, etc., etc. I think to the extent that you can. And I was surprised that in the application that went out to apply for going to Beijing, we had many men say, I know that this invitation is not for men, but you know, we do so much work for women. So you can see how it was like they felt that they were the ones that had harnessed the women in the country's system. But most importantly, I think of the fact that, you know, it was not, you know, when people applied, they had never had a passport. Today we talk of so many identifications, blah, 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 and even harmonizing all of that. So in their application forms, which were to go to New York, they had written their name. So say Bhavri's name is Bhavri, or Kala's name is Kala, and somebody's name is, say, Sanita. That was their name. But when they made their passport, their names were something else. And so I was rushed to New York because, you know, being the coordination unit, one had the relationship with China, Beijing, the president of the coordinating efforts in Beijing, and New York, we had the IWTC group that was doing all the coordination. And I sat there, I took out all those forms. I had to, and it's all hand, you know, we didn't have really laptops of that kind those days. And by hand, I spent 3 nights with all my, whatever it's called, jet lag, to change all those forms and harmonize those names with their passport names, so that the registration could go through and they could get their visas. And not everybody got their visas. There were about 20 women who did not get their visas. And the unit tried a lot, not us. I mean, the coordination unit had its own committee for the visas, and they couldn't get them. And then they made some alternative arrangement for them to do gender training over for another conference. So those were the levels. And then suddenly overnight, one day I was told, Sunita, go to Beijing. Okay, go and see what it is like for we're taking 350 women. Remember that from India, we were 450 plus. It didn't matter that only unit was funding. Like they said earlier, the pool was larger, people got funding, there were other groups. So there was a huge delegation, and rightly so, because this was the only conference in Asia. And one could have afforded whatever the donors put into the pool, could have afforded sending women to Asia than to any of those other conferences. And that's why the numbers speak, because it also became a movement across the world, etc. And then I go to Beijing. And, you know, she was such a lovely person, the chair there. She was a friend, she became a friend. And she sent me all the logistics and sent me to Huairou. Huairou was about 1 hour away from Beijing. Huairou was this township which was emptied for the duration of the conference. And some houses were told you run the kitchens, so that every neighborhood, every 10 houses or so, there would be a kitchen that would be run, so that food would be easily available. And so I went there to figure out how would women be staying, how would we travel, given all our language constraints, given all different kinds of needs, and had to figure out water now. China, I don't think people drank much water there. They drank tea, green tea. Indians are so used to drinking water. So, you know, from looking at what is it that you need to carry with you, how do you need to heat the water at night, cool it tomorrow morning, carry it in your water bottle, your trolley. So all of those logistics that go behind anyone coming to a conference had to be worked out. And what would it mean navigating the system? What were the healthcare systems available? Because I know we got SOS calls once we were there that some women were very disturbed and food was not available to their taste. Some of them were a little traumatized because we had no control of who was put into which dwelling. We had no control. We were given the dwellings and we tried to get the best of people together so that there was a support group around, but something fell through the crack, and suddenly I got a call from the High Commission or the Embassy of India, looking for us. And I don't remember, I don't know what phones we had. We didn't have cell phones. I don't know how messages came. I have no memory now.
Not in 95.
5 years ago.
No mobile, no mobile.
No mobile. So somebody sends you a message, and of course, we all know how to communicate. So the message comes and says, X and X is not feeling well. Can you send somebody? So, we were connected in whatever ways and reached out the support, tried to find ways. I spent 3 days trying to find, I remember the Bangalore group with Ruth, all of her colleagues, they had not eaten for 3 days because they just didn't get what they wanted. And so I went looking for where we could find it, found some Chinese friends, found this place where you can get chicken with cashew nut, So I must say that the experience is not just about a conference. The experience is about local, global living, togetherness, solidarity, and going to a country that had opened up for the first time in their lives. I don't think they've ever had feminists come to their soil. And so even that experience, and I know you're going to put this on record, so I will not say some of the stories, but at some point when you put
we'll do that over another lunch or coffee.
Off, we will tell you all about the subversive stuff that we did.
Yeah.
You can't put that on record right now. So
yeah.
So this was
would you like to say something? And Amu has been typing away,
Amu
but I think she should speak.
Amu has written a lot during the Beijing process. She came to the SCAP meeting and many other meetings. Amu, come on.
We're going to go over time, but I think it's fine. We're all having fun. So I'm just saying that because people need.
Amu, you are muted. You have to unmute. Yeah.
The first time I heard about Beijing was when some young journalist asked me whether I was going to Beijing. I had no idea what she meant. I'd never even heard about it, So I think I was a bit behind on, I was not part of the international circuit yet at that time. But the only two things I want to add to the thing is that, Bimla, I think, talked about the girl child it's the first time it was recognized, and I mean, the issue was recognized. And similarly, the women in media as an issue, it was the very first time, and it was a very hastily written and very poor section of the Beijing Platform for Action, which we are still having to deal with. But anyway, it was the first time that it was recognized in any global or UN document. And after that, there's been a lot more activism about women in media and women and media. I think that helped. The inclusion did help with that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that there was a lot of very biased media coverage of the Beijing conference, especially by the Western media. All the time, trying to find the things that were going wrong. I remember there was a big headline in especially the US media about a wall having collapsed. It's as if like many people were injured and all that. And Kalpana and I actually went in search of this wall, because we hadn't heard about this huge accident which is supposed to have happened just where we were. And it was a really small little, parapet, sort of a half wall which had collapsed, and nobody had even noticed it. We had to really search for it, but it was major headlines internationally. So I, in fact, came back and wrote an article about media bias, which was very obvious during that time. And for the fun part, of course, the food.
So do you have a wall photo, Amu?
Yeah, I have somewhere.
Send.
Also, Kalpana and I think, stayed back for a day or played hooky from one day of the official conference or something, and went to Xi'an to see the terracotta soldiers. That was great fun. But I must tell you about the thing of the food. We were drawing, as somebody else said, we were drawing pictures of chickens and ducks and whatnot, and saying what we want. And actually, it was very well organized in Wairo, because they had all these little school children who were supposed to guide us and translate for us and all that. So they would come to all these mom and pop establishments, I think basically homes which had been converted into eating places, and fabulous food. I thought the food in Wairo was much better than anywhere else because it was really home cooked food. But then in Beijing, I remember being in a taxi with a few people, including Nandita Haksar, and we were trying to go to a place. I mean, we're in Beijing, we have to eat Peking duck, no? So, and I remember clearly Nandita Haksar saying, quack, 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 quack. And the poor taxi driver didn't know what the hell we were talking about. Anyway, so with that.
No very last word before we adjourn for today.
I'd like to say this, because you talked about the issue of LGBT. Those days we never used that word, but I remember in the first note that I wrote for the coordination unit, and we kind of wrote about many issues and identities of women. And we were all new to this language and issues, but we did include because some of us were engaged with the issues of lesbian women. So then I got called by, the Manila conference in the women's group, the India women's group. There was a division on how women only members of a family. Women have their own identities as single women and as lesbian women, and their sexuality. Now, sexuality was a very divisive issue those days, and most women did not want to discuss it. And there was all of that kind of politics of identities that had not been understood deeply by many women. Because they saw women largely in their identities of rural women, urban women, working women, etc., but not in the context of sexuality. And so there was a breakup right there. And so when I came back, I was not at that time in the coordination unit, but later I was called by the NCW and said, how dare you wrote, how did you mention the issues of lesbian women? And I said, what's wrong? These are issues, these are not influences of the West. We have to recognize diversity and all. So I'm just saying, that time, yes, I mean, they didn't agree with it, but they didn't kind of, they mentioned it and you could talk to them. I don't know today that kind of space necessarily, but the negotiation on issues, the education, and I think that feminist groups and women's groups, there was a division. I don't think feminism was deeply rooted in most of the women's organizations across the country. And yes, that's why feminism, the discussions were very meaningful throughout. But what was also very interesting, I think, in this process was the catalyzing of many platforms. We didn't want to look at ourselves as a nation state with state boundaries and all that stuff. There were state consultations, there were regional consultations, there were all of that. But at the same time, we were also looking at geographies of where women were located. So women amongst the mountains, women in the desert areas, women along the coastal line. So you were also trying to look at common issues that bring women together. And Dalit women, Muslim women, we had put some category, I think special groups, special interests of women or something like that. I can't remember that first note I wrote. It's a 3-4 page note that I wrote on what we might be doing in time to come. And I'm sure there was much better language available. I, with my limited understanding of what I did, just to catalyze the unit's work. And we had a wonderful set of colleagues, many of us, Madhu and Shamita Ghosh and Preeti and Asha came in a year later, and etc. Reena, who continues. And we are all friends. We continue to have our friendship still today. And I think that's very important to share that. I think the solidarity with everyone here and outside, those friendships have lasted us till today. Because many of us were new to a national scenario. I don't think any of us had ever worked on a national level, so to speak. I did a little bit of training through Priya and literacy work and all that, but I think we got to know each other through this process. And we also, I being a Kashmiri, tried to bring in the issues of Kashmiri women, women from Ladakh, women from Jammu. My colleagues worked at it. I didn't directly work at it because colleagues were more experienced and they went to the valley. Some of them didn't get visas, etc. All of that happened. But the idea was, can you have a conversation with also the Tibetan women? We brought the issues of Tibetan women, we took it to Beijing with us. We highlighted some of those issues. We raised it when the Secretary General of the Commission on Status of Women who came to India, And the only thing that I remember very strongly, which was a common feature with all of us, was that if the door opened for 1, we opened it for 11. If it opened for 7, we opened it for 77. That was the way the politics worked. So as they were having this meeting that Manhori Das was talking about, which Ruth and the coordination units advisory committee, Ruth and others had held, which was basically a commitment from the government. And there was no place in Delhi where 300 women could stay together or something like that. And it was a terrible place. I remember we had to do the logistics of arranging food, and there was no infrastructure, and that was the state of
toilets.
Terrible. It was a terrible state. It was near Nizamuddin actually, and because of the numbers, there was no other venue or something. I can't remember. There were many limitations. We're looking at Gandhi, the Gandhian institutions, etc. But whatever be it. So what happened was that we suddenly got a meeting through Sarla Gopalan. We must not forget the allies we had in the system. So Sarla Gopalan said, I can set up a meeting with the Prime Minister. And the Joint Secretary was Mr. Guha. So Mr. Guha calls me up and says, okay, send 5 women. Okay, that's 300 women outside there. What are 5 women going to represent? At least allow us 15 women, 20 women. So negotiating that 20 women, 25 women must be allowed. And since then I would call up Sarla Gopalan. Nothing was easy those days, getting through those calls, getting through the PAs. And Sarla Gopalan said, okay, send me a list of 20, And so you had to use all of the possibilities and see the women across the country. I don't know, some of you might have been there at that meeting, you mentioned it, when Adama Rao told us, you must not raise these issues. Then when we went to Beijing, I got a call from the embassy because that was the first time that the government of India sent all its women MPs to the Beijing conference. There were 60 women MPs across the political affiliations. And then we were asked to do an orientation for them right there. And then I know that some of them then looked at us and said, Acha, so Bhavli Devi is also there in your delegation. I said, well, Bhavli Devi is a leader. Do you only look at her as a woman who has been violated and she has every right? The case, I think the case was going on. No, 94. She had lost the case in the trial court or something like that. Anyway, so even shifting the issues to looking at women as leaders who are bringing about change, and that rape is not for the women to, it's not only a women's issue, the state has to take responsibility. So there were a lot of these conversations taking place, and we don't know but how far it went. But I think women's movement gathered strength to then do a lot more work. And also to understand that there is no one women's movement, there were multiple women's movements, and probably many have grown strong and questioned each other on entitlements, on voice, on access to opportunities. And I think those issues continue even today. But one issue that I think we never paid attention to, it is women with disabilities. We did not at all talk about those issues in 1995, I must say, which doesn't mean women with disabilities were not there, but as a specific issue, we did not talk about it. I'm sure there were women there in the group, but that was an issue that stays in my mind that we had not.
There were women on wheelchairs, I remember.
Yeah, there were women with disabilities, but the issue of women with disabilities and their concerns.
Yes. But Sunita, in Beijing Plus 25, there was so much to actually, to compensate that, there was so much on women with disability. Did you notice that in Beijing Plus 25?
Yeah, where?
Bangkok, when we went for Beijing Plus 25.
That's right, because they're international.
There was so much of on women with disability.
That's right.
That's another shift.
That's another shift.
Yeah.
And younger women, but we were all young women actually, And the other thing I remember was UNIFEM was a very tiny agency. Chalni had just come to India, and UNIFEM did not have much visibility. So in the coordination unit, Karuna and I thought, why don't we give an idea that before the delegation goes to Beijing, we all had to meet in Delhi. I think we were all on the same flight. And some of us spent the entire night on the flight trying to fill up the visa forms, because everyone's visa forms had to be filled up. So we decided, why don't we have an intergenerational conversation? So Veena Mazumdar, Devki Jain, I can't remember who else we must have invited. So before the delegation went at Vishwa Yuva Kendra, we all stayed there.
Yes.
night flight. And so we had this thing with Chandni Joshi and all of them, also to give visibility to UNIFEM, because Beijing conference was also about how resources can flow to a women's agency at the UN level, where there was no dedicated UN agency. It came much later. It was only a fund. UNIFEM was a fund within UNDP, all of that. So I think there were, you know, attempts to think differently, bring in women, like they were not only classical donors who put money into the pot. And for the first time, donors did not decide that only their partners would go. It was organized with criteria and a consultative mechanism and all of that. But many people joined, like, Vimla said, someone funded her, someone funded somebody else. There were many. We got money from British Council to fund people directly, not put into the pool. So there was an attempt to build partnership, to build a larger pool, and to work together. And it was not easy. Let me tell you, it was not easy. There was a critique. There were times when I have been told by women who have been to many conferences, "Arey, you're taking these women without chappal to Beijing? What an insult to our country." So we were dealing with those kinds of mindsets, not from outside the women's group, within our own larger women's networks. So the issue of class, the issue of ethnicity, the issue of location, the politics within it as to who has the right to represent so-called, issues of women in the outside world were all issues we were dealing with. And many of us who were in the backstage, because we were organizing it, we saw all of that. I mean, we were not in the front stage, so to speak, because there was groups that were leading it. But these are the kinds of politics, the questions, you are a donor-funded effort. We did face a lot of backlash. And as young women, we were also grappling with a lot of all of that process,
So on this note, I'm actually going to, because we can go on and on and on. And I know
one funny thing on logistics, Sunita was talking about, and because our names are not very familiar with the people sitting in that registration desk, one of our friend Rohini, she was given a room along with another man. Okay, so she goes there in the night and finds a man sitting there. Okay, so she keeps running to our room, and these people were also very funny. You have 4 people in one room. So the 5th person, when she comes, these people were spying on us. So each time they were knocking the door, one of us will go to the bathroom. So they count 1, 2, 3, 4, they go back. So like that, we did this circus for the whole night. Next day, we went and changed the room. Okay.
So before everyone starts to leave, turn your cameras on, Sunita, Nandini, Puril. Let's take a photo.